Hello there! Ignore the game in the background, or don't. This is Warship Gunner 2 if you don't actually know what it is. I've already played it. I'm playing it again. Not right now though. It's just background stuff I'm going to be doing whilst we talk. This is for people who watch Suikoden 2 and World of Warships. We may as well put both of them in one video. For whatever reason, there was an issue with my microphone where it reset its audio volume. I have no idea why. Maybe the power went out one night and it reset audio, I don't know. But it was running at 100 volume, and normally, like right now, it's running at 60.
All hands alert. Full speed
So what that basically meant is my volume was way too loud. It was peaking, it was clipping, whatever you feel like calling it. Ignore the fact that there's a hole in the side of this boat. This is actually being emulated. It has issues, but it runs. It does have issues though, like this hole in my boat. But anyway, the problem is you can't really fix that. Once you've screwed up the audio, you either try and make it not as bad, it's still going to be bad, which it is, or you re-record it. The problem is it's 4 whole videos, which is, let's see the video lengths here, 32 minutes, 40 minutes, 29 minutes, and 55 minutes. I am not going to re-record that much gameplay. I still have the old save because I'm not quite that stupid. But I'm not going to, so I apologize in advance. Hopefully it's still at least moderately watchable. It's not good. If I were to show this to someone and be like, you know, here's a video I made, I wouldn't be very proud of it because the audio's not very good. It's actually quite bad. But again, I'm not going to re-record that, so my apologies. You're just going to have to deal with it. If it is so bad that, you know, it's unwatchable for you guys, what I can do is I'll leave those videos up in the event someone does want to watch them. But I will make a summary. I'll take those videos, edit out the audio, and do a single video summary of what happened in terms of storyline for, we need more shells, for those particular games, or for those particular videos, I should say, for that particular game. The World of Warships update is that I will be taking a break. It's already dead. Good fight. Good fight. Yes. Goofy storyline. I will be taking a break from it, primarily because the latest patch is aggravating me. It's not necessarily a bad patch, but it's aggravating me. Battleships are not fun to play. You're just not tanky enough. If everyone was slinging armor piercing, yeah, sure, I'd be more inclined to play a battleship. I was gonna say a heavy tank, but whatever. If you look at how it works in World of Tanks, there's still HE, and people will shoot HE at you. That's something just falls onto my eye, which kind of startled me if you couldn't tell there. People will fire HE at you if your armor is too much for them to pierce with armor piercing, or if, you know, they're having trouble piercing, or they just have a really big gun. Cough KD2. They'll fire HE at you, but the HE does damage based on armor, and it, you know, for heavily armored targets, which are generally supposed to be harder to kill because they're heavier, it will do drastically less damage. The problem here is HE does not do drastically less damage. It does reasonably less damage. It's a reasonable amount of damage that the actual AP shell is doing. It's you know, if I were to get lucky, and here's the problem in and of itself right there, if I were to get lucky and get a Citadel shot via armor piercing from a battleship onto basically anything, it's gonna do a lot of damage. Huge amounts of damage from Citadel shots. The problem is you have to get lucky, and you also have to pierce. A lot of the time your armor piercing is gonna do no damage because it's just not hitting anything. Like if you just hit a gun, which for whatever reason does 0 damage at this point in time, I don't know why, but it does. Or just, you know, ricochet off the side of the boat, you're gonna do 0 damage. every single HE shot will do damage, and they will all do about the same amount of damage. There's some variance in there. But if you're firing HE at something, you're generally not all that concerned about the HE damage. This is going to be a very long rant about the game, by the way. Also, I'm playing a game somewhat related, I suppose. You're not worried about the HE damage. The HE damage is fine, as far as I care. Firing HE at stuff, you do reasonable damage consistently, and that's the biggest thing, is it's consistent. The problem is the fire damage. The fire chance in and of itself is actually too high, in my opinion. I don't know if they'll nerf it again, but they probably should. But anyway, that's irrelevant. The actual damage that the fire does is far too high. Oh yeah, I should probably shoot him before he wrecks me, because I don't have any armor. So in order to fix the problem of battleships not being fun, they're going to have to drastically reduce the damage, and preferably the fire chance, for shells. The fire damage done by shells as well. Because you go into a fight, it takes you ages to get into a fight because most battleships are very slow. There's a few that aren't. Congo's pretty fast. Fuso, I believe, is relatively fast. Almost all of the US battleships are god-awful slow, so it takes them, you know, half a match to even get into combat with somebody, if they're lucky. Sometimes you'll go entire matches in some of the slower US battleships, or battleships in general, and not shoot, which is just terrible in and of itself. But you'll go that far, you know, you play this big slow vessel because it's supposed to be kind of beefy. It's got slow firing guns that are supposed to do a lot of damage when they hit. They're kind of inaccurate, but you know, they account for that via much more damage. But the problem is, none of that's actually true. You're not actually very tanky, because people bypass your armor extraordinarily easy via game mechanics that are designed to function that way. What was that about? Something. I was gonna say something else, I remember. There's a boat somewhere over here and it's distracting me. Where's my boat? Ah, there you are, my friend. Let's just go hug him to death. Anyway, you get there, they bypass all of your armor, set you on fire, break all your stuff, you repair, and then they immediately set you on fire again, and then you have to sit there for 50 seconds burning, whereby they'll probably set you on fire again before you're even done burning the first time. More often than not, half or more than half of my health is lost from fire damage that I can do absolutely nothing about. There's a skill. There's a captain skill in the game that will reduce the chance of a fire occurring. However, someone did the math on that, and due to the way fires work, it has almost no effect. Almost as much effect as the ground right there, which actually, you know, it doesn't actually exist, but we don't talk about that. So you've got this skill that effectively is useless because of the way the fire mechanics in the game work. And you've got cruisers that can basically chain gun fire their guns with pinpoint accuracy, which battleships do not have, and then cause, you know, 18 different fires on 18 different ships. Or maybe 18 fires on one ship if you're, you know, so inclined to pain, I suppose, but whatever. So that's one of my problems. The other problem is carriers aren't very fun. I've actually started just playing carriers in co-op battles and not standard battles, as terrible as that is. Primarily because the way the AI behaves with carriers. The AI is not very good with fighter planes on carriers. So I've been trying to, you probably know this, but I've been trying to level up the Japanese carrier line, but the Japanese carriers have 2 less planes in a squadron. Their fighters, for whatever reason, are, for all intents and purposes, equivalent to the US fighters at tier. That have a little bit more endurance. The problem is there's 2 less of them in a squadron. And there will always be at least 1 less in a Japanese squadron. An upgraded Japanese squadron and a base US squadron. the Japanese will have one less plane than the US squadron. So that's not very fun, because the US squadrons will just completely wreck you. So you go full offense and don't use any fighters, because your fighters may as well not exist. Unless you're fighting a Japanese player, and then they probably don't have fighters, so, you know. Also just hit my desk, but that's kind of the gist of it. Is not very fun. You kind of get zoned out by... If you're in a Japanese carrier and there's even the semi-competent US admiral in a carrier on the other team, you are, for all intents and purposes, completely useless.
Let's leave the area.
Because they will screen the crap out of you, and you won't be able to do anything. Which is unfortunate. Makes me not want to play carriers. Cruisers are fun. Don't get me wrong, cruisers are still fun. You still have the tendency to be lit on fire. And I have the tendency to light people on fire, because I'll fire HE like nobody's business via a cruiser, because that's what cruisers do. And destroyers are alright. I have relative fun with destroyers. I think the torpedo detection range should be lower than what it is, and all ships should have their prior turn speed given back to them. For those of you unaware, the speed at which ships turned was changed back to what it was in whatever patch it was, 3.0 or something. I don't remember what the patch number was. I think it was 3.0. So ships turn much slower than they did last patch, or last couple patches, or however many patches ago it was, I don't remember. Which makes it not really all that interesting. It's a big ship. You know, if you're in a battleship, you're intending to turn slow. It's a large vessel. There's not a whole lot you can do about that. But, I kind of liked the faster turning, a little bit more maneuverability, and a little bit, quote-unquote, more exciting. You can bring your guns to bear a little bit faster in some cases. A skilled player could more easily dodge torpedoes. You know, all of that jazz. If they turned at the same speed they used to, and torpedoes were spotted much closer to your ship, then, you know, you could still dodge stuff if you're paying attention. But otherwise, you're gonna get hit by something, and that's kind of the problem with torpedoes. The game tells you with a big flashing thing and warning sounds and all that there are torpedoes in the water. A percentage of the torpedo's total travel distance, maximum travel distance, I should say, not total. So the vessels. This is particularly a problem with Japanese ships, because Japanese everything actually, because their torpedoes are long lance. They fire from very far away, but that means they can spot the torpedoes from very far away, which allows people to basically meander along and still dodge huge spreads of torpedoes that are fired from, you know, 15 kilometers away, because they can see them from 6 kilometers away, or whatever the spotting range is, 4 kilometers I think, something around there. I don't know, either way it's a pretty far distance, and you can always see the torpedoes in the water. Or at least I think you can. Can you? You should if you can't. That seems a bit silly if you can't actually see the, I don't know if I saved, see the torpedoes in the water all the time, but either way, you can see where they're launched, I know that for a fact. But, yeah, there's, you know, some changes to the game that I would like to happen. I'm going to take a bit of a break from it because I'm getting aggravated with the current patch, and I will come back when the, you know, future patches mayhaps address some of those issues. I'm actually going to check something while I'm recording here. Freaking... It's my mouse, I'm aware. I hate the fact that Wargaming's site constantly signs me out for no apparent reason, even though I tell it to remember me, and then I have to put all of the crap back in to freaking log back in. It's really annoying. Anyway, I want to check the news real quick to see if there's anything about patch. There is a patch. Aha, let me check this patch real quick, see what's going on here. Turning dynamics for destroyers has been slightly changed. So you can turn better when you're slower. That should honestly be a thing for every ship, not just destroyers, but whatever. Acceleration to full speed is now much slower overall in all ships. I don't know why. Deceleration remains unchanged. It'll now be affected by upgrades influencing acceleration. There's a new game mode, apparently. It's basically just a modified existing game mode. Let's see if there's any changes here. Oh good! Damage of bombs and torpedoes increased for US aircraft carriers. By quite a lot, holy crap, as if they weren't already good. Admittedly, the offensive power of US carriers is terrible, but they have 2 extra planes, which adds a lot to their damage. So, for instance here, we've got the upgraded Bogue Stock Independence. Torpedo damage from 5,900 to 8,500. Bomb damage increased from 3,300 to 5,400. Those are huge increases. And the next group up, which is the Ranger tier of planes, goes from 8,500 to 9,800, and 5,400 to 7,500. That's a bit obscene. Stock Kikuyu, 1 torpedo replaced by bomb. Torpedo damage for carriers was decreased. What? Admittedly, those are top tier, and they have a lot of planes, but still. Drop down. So the top tier carriers for Japan, tier 8, 9, and 10, have had their torpedo damage decreased from 10,700 to 8,500. So the top carriers on the Japanese side now do less torpedo damage than a stock Lexington, or even a top configuration Independence. Admittedly, they have a lot of squadrons, but they also have 2 less planes in a squadron. These are weird changes. Turret Izumo speed do. Secondary battery range for Izumo and Yamato increased to 7. That's nice. If they were more accurate, that'd be nice too. Ooh, decreased percentage of ricochets of large caliber projectiles. That's nice. Considering that's a huge problem on battleships, you have this giant reload and then you'll just ricochet constantly and do basically no damage. I don't know about this patch. They appear to have buffed US carriers and nerfed top tier Japanese carriers, even though there is no top tier US carrier for which to compare it to, but whatever. Really should just put the stupid midway in. Anyway, that's my rant. The next, we're gonna recap here because this is way longer than it should be. The next 4 Suikoden videos are terrible audio. If you want, just let me know and I'll just make a recap video that I'll put up relatively soon. If people want it, I'll just upload all 4 of those relatively quickly and put up a recap video to show what happened there so you guys don't have to watch the terrible audio quality. World of Warships, I've got 1 more video, it's number 10, and then after that there will be an unknown length of time before number 11 shows up because I'm going to be taking a bit of a break here so I don't get quite so flustered all the time. That's about it. Thanks for watching. Me, Ramble. Ramble Joe too. I'll see you guys next time either way, so see ya.